Bienvenidos a Telemundo.
Welcome to Between the Joints. Was that a Telemundo advertisement there on the way in?
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Are we going to get hit by copyright?
No,
Only after
Red Bull.
Justin puts the music in.
exactly.
Danny, where are you headed into right now? You guys might have already talked about this, but what's next for you? You got a job coming up?
Yes, I do. I have multiple projects already going on once I get back home. Carports, a couple of garages, and about 2 barbershops. So this month's already off completely booked, which is good.
Couple months. Yeah.
To that point, we deal with everybody around the nation, right? We try to kind of collect the data of what's going on out there. And I will say the last 6 months, this winter was slow for a lot of people. Maybe not, everybody, but a lot of people were a little bit worried. We saw this thing where the election came and, it took off. And then a couple weeks later, it mellowed out. And then Christmas came by and then the inauguration happened. It took off. Then it slowed down.
Correct.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, mid-March, it just blew up. And everybody we have been talking to is saying the same thing. This is the craziest spring I've ever seen. I'm quadruple booked for the next 2 months, 6 months, 7 months,
Like I literally just got completely booked not even a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
A week and a half. Everybody just started calling me. Last month I was basically just home, basically doing my wife's chores. But then all of a sudden it just started taking off and everybody's calling me basically at once.
Yep. Yeah, it's great. It's great. And then Madden, what do you got coming up?
A lobotomy.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you could use it after the last few weeks.
Yeah, and just a little vacation. I'm flying out to Minneapolis to do a salon, a little metallic action out there. Tonight, I'm doing a metallic over subfloor. All the subfloor prep's been done. But I'll be in Minneapolis until, I guess, probably the 15th, 16th. And then got to bounce home, got to bounce to New York for a few days. And then, the 28th, right?
Yep.
Doing one more metallic here.
Back down here.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
So
Walter in New York is talking about doing something soon. So there'll probably be another crazy multimedia, the fun stuff.
So Walter King, if you guys want to check him out, King's House of Fire in, is it not Westchester? What is it? Rochester, New York?
No, it's Cortland Manor. There we go.
Cortland, that's right. Yeah, about 40 minutes outside of Newburgh, New York. So Walter King is just this amazing entrepreneurial spirit. He's still, I think, cool. 28, 29 years old? He's in his mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
This guy, if you get a chance, follow him on Instagram, King's House of Fire, Walter King. He has 6 different businesses going on right now.
The dispensary, the fun center, the daycare. I'm not sure if he's still doing the mobile gaming, all kinds of just random businesses that you're all right, yeah,
that works.
People need it, but you never really think about it. But he's killing it. It's all about the branding and the brand representation. He's on point.
Yeah, and that particular job where you were introduced to him is a classic example of somebody that's looking for something spectacular that ended up with the wrong contractor. He had originally contracted with somebody that told him, "Hey, we can do that," and these guys could hardly do a flake floor. You came into it at a point where half of the job cost was already expended to these guys that were in there not doing what they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So you came in and you and I had that discussion. You were like, look, I really think this is going to be worth getting in and helping this guy. And I know firsthand because I watched it that you guys probably had a loss on that job to get in there and do such a beautiful
I made like $1,200 at
Yeah,
the end of
yeah.
like 2 months.
Yeah, which
Wow.
otherwise should have been
Wow.
it's probably $150,000 install.
But look at it.
But and not only that,
And
but
what a feat.
look at the relationship.
That's my thing.
With such a beautiful entrepreneurial spirit, you guys
Yeah.
now have connected. He has all these other things going on, and Brandon and I had talked about that in the past about not selling yourself short, but recognizing the potential of
Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it's worth the sacrifice to do it. And really, in that case too, it was the fact that he had gotten with the wrong contractors. Like these were guys that should have not been doing that job. We're talking, like Flake Floor, like they're a painting company. They just happen to do these floors. This guy, got the contract. I think he was charging, $10 a square foot, and it was supposed to be just a metallic to begin with. And then as the guy is like, "Oh, you want something crazy? You want to see something cool?" And Walter saw a picture of my floor. It was a mixed media, and it was that gray and green one. And Walter was like, "What is that?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, you want that? Like, we can do that." So this guy sells me a job where I'm like, "Oh, this sounds cool. Like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to see the scope. And we're going to talk about a budget." And I get there an hour and a half drive. And I get there and the guy is like, "Oh, I figured if I told you, you wouldn't have come out here. But this is only a $10 a square foot job." And I was like, "This isn't possible. I can't." He's like, "No, man, if you have all of our guys, we have 12 guys that we could throw on this." I'm like, "That's not going to be help. That's going to be a detriment. That's going to make this so much more difficult." And I was like, "I want 2 of them that don't even like each other, but do really good work. That's what I want. I just want 2 guys to shut up and just not talk to each other and listen." And the whole way it was supposed to work out was Walter was going to wrap up the contract with them and just pay me separately, because I outright was like, "This guy's getting in the way." Every solution I'm throwing here, he's like, "Oh yeah," just eating it up. So finally, I'll tell Walter, I'm like, "We'll do it separate." And the guy still found a way to get in the middle of it 2 different times after that.
Yep.
And so they reached a point where Walter was super disappointed. This guy had pissed me off. And I was just like, "You know what? Just so you get a really sick floor and they don't get to say they did it."
And you guys did.
That's it.
You and Brandon went up there and gave him the guy a $30-$40 square foot mixed media.
Oh, yeah.
It was absolutely beautiful. I've seen that particular set of, media pieces have a certain amount of virality. I think that has done a lot. So it does pay off. I mean, I think more or less the relationship was worth it, but to have that in your portfolio was gorgeous. So yeah, so check out King's House of Fire, Walter King, and all of his businesses. And then Ileana, what do you have coming up? Yeah.
Yes, because the way I say before, I just moved to a new place. We have to fix it. We have to do a couple showroom. Then I have a traveling over a month outside of United States, and it's a work in between because I can do a couple jobs in one day. That's normal for me, and then I go at night in my shop to do the rest. Yeah, this is me.
Busy.
So much.
So I know you've talked about this before, and you guys were talking about it earlier. Your entry into epoxy. So,
as a real estate broker, we flip houses. So, very low budget houses. So we start flipping the houses, and we cannot fix it with so much money because it's not worth it. So my ex find it stone cold. So he watched a couple videos, he showed it to me, says, "Let's try it." That's how we started. Trying it, 1, 2 houses. The 3rd house we did, the neighbor lady, she said, "Can you do mine?" I was like, "Okay, I'll help." I went there, spent a good amount. Amazing design on hers. And then a couple of my investors in the group, "Oh, can you do mine? Can you do mine?" And that's how it starts, and I never stopped since that time.
Yeah. So organic growth. You didn't pay for marketing.
No.
Do any of us pay for marketing? Do you pay for marketing?
No, she
no,
learned.
not anymore. No.
Yeah.
She learned the lesson. you promoted a post, you paid for marketing, and,
Oh,
it,
that
and it
was
has throttled your organic reach.
that
Yeah.
was lately on Instagram when I boost my
Same. I
same.
did the same
They
in the
stopped
past.
me.
Yeah,
They're like,
never,
people
never,
cannot see me
no.
anymore.
Yeah.
Nope.
So yeah, you can absolutely be shadow banned. You know, it takes you off of the algorithm. You know, Justin and I have been doing a lot of research about building, you know, our YouTube channel and you know, growing, and we've realized that there's a lot that can be of detriment that you think is actually helping you. And what you see, very much like the, you know, on TikTok, when you boost these things, you know, I think they realize that they kind of reel you in. You got to pay again to get the views and pay again to get the
You'll
views.
pay big. You're gonna keep paying. You're
Exactly.
gonna keep paying for that sweet exposure.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So
I
got you.
so I had sold $15 million in product before I ever paid for any kind of marketing. And I wasted so much money paying for marketing, you know, thinking that it was going to get me through that second break point. And it didn't. It didn't at all. So I think good quality work, social media, you know, goes a really long ways. You know, we talked a lot about this week, you know, our goals and our intentions. And I think we all have the same, you know, idea of where we are trying to take this. And, you know, I'm excited about that. I'm very appreciative and love all three of you guys very much. You know, our core team is amazing. But ultimately what we've built here is like a big fun house. And it was interesting to watch the Venetian plaster class. Everybody was like apologizing. Oh, we got a mess here and we did this. And it's like walking in any art studio, you're going to see there's paint everywhere, there's clay everywhere. You know, that's what I envision for this place. While it's a showroom, it's also a fun house, you know, so it was nice to see it get put to use. I have been, you know, paying this mortgage for the last almost year. So to see people in here and
Coming in.
you know,
Holy
doing
shit.
good things.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but you know, it served its purpose outside of that. You know, it does still generate revenue. It's given us the ability to grow, you know, the online platforms. It gives us a good central spot to be able to come and meet and network. And more importantly, it's really connected us with many people within the region. So I have this vision, you know, for Coding Central, eventually not, you know, Coding Central in every single state, but I think we need to have a Coding Central that's regionally attractive for people. So it's a very interesting time in the world right now. You know, the economy is like upside down and all around, and you know, people are unsure about the future. You know, we've got trade wars going on, and but you know, I think back to COVID, and 2020 was actually probably the biggest, most expansive growth that we had. You know, because
especially in my business, yes.
yeah, it was crazy. You know, we just saw this massive boom, and it's just I'm always optimistic. It's like anything, you know, even if you work for somebody else, there's going to be times that are scary. You know, being a business owner, you know, the only thing that I typically worry about, it's not me, it's not my things, it's this team, you know, these people, these families that all rely on this business. Yeah, you know, and I do you know, have concern about things like that. But I believe in power in numbers. You know, I believe in the ability for everyone to pull together. And that's what I see more than anything with this Bulletproof team. You know, everybody's got each other's backs. There's no tear or rift in what we have built. And it's been nice. And I think we're going to develop even more from that. You know, I'm seeing
There's no drama.
there's no drama.
Drama. Yes, that's what I like.
For the most part, you know, it's you know,
Maddens.
What? Me?
no, you know, one thing I will say is I found that there are other artists out there too, and that's going to be the next dynamic is like, how do you bring in new talent without
Correct.
impacting the current talent? And, you know, working with people, like when I left healthcare, I didn't want to work with people anymore like that. I didn't want to manage people. I really was, I am telling you, I was just done.
My sweet summer child.
Yeah, you know, and I had,
Look at you now.
I had 250 employees, you know, most to all of which were women. And, you know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's a challenge in and of itself, right? So when I left, I said, I'm just not going to manage people anymore. I'm going to go do me. I'm going to start my business. I'm going to do all these things. And now here I am managing people again. Right. But it's obviously it's God's calling for me at this point.
I think Ileana, like, how good is that?
No, I'm
She was
agree
like,
with-
yeah. 250 women. That
Yeah,
sounds
that's just,
awful.
it's hard to deal with.
Well, it was a 24/7 operation too, right? So it never shut off. There was, census issues, and everything was circled around customer satisfaction. And, it's a business. It truly is. I mean, when you think about a hospital, healthcare is a business, and it's an all-encompassing,
It's like one of the most thriving,
heavily
businesses.
regulated, most profitable businesses out there. So, if there's any, I've always said that the like a prerequisite for owning, a business is, go wait tables or go be a nurse for a little bit, and have to take people's shit without cracking a smile or having a comeback. It's an interesting process. So. But I do see some talent out there, and I don't know if you guys have caught on. There's a few.
There's a few guys,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, there's a
I
few
have
guys.
I have my eyes on maybe 2 guys,
Me too.
which
2 girls.
yeah, but there's always great talent out there. There's a lot of people killing it. Some are great than others, and it all depends, like prep wise. Everybody, like I said, everybody wants to be an artist, but nobody wants to do the shitty part.
That's right.
That is part of the art.
Correct. So it's always, you always got to get down and dirty to the nitty gritty.
Yeah, just get that shit done. And you got to build your canvas.
Exactly. You got to build your canvas. That's why I suggest
That in itself is, there's an art form to
You know,
that.
like,
There's
I-
craftsmanship in that.
I really, like me, I have a small crew, maybe 2 guys. And when I do get bigger jobs, bigger prepping job, bigger floors, I outsource my prep. It's much
Mhm.
easier, but I always inspect all my preps as well. So make sure it's being prepped properly, being done properly before I even step in and do any type of coating. So that's all what counts as well too when owning a business is not trusting. You could trust them, but like you got to make sure it gets done right.
Nah, you trust no one. Go see with your own eyes.
Exactly.
Well, even, Coding Central is providing jobs right now, and that's been like what's given me night sweats lately. This is our name, it's our town, it's our, we're on
Yes.
it's
It's
the
your company,
it's
it's
the
your
forefront is our reputation, so building that, I think, has been the most stressful piece. And unfortunately, finding good help right now is already tough enough. So, I find myself in many positions where I feel the need to, hold on and grab on for dear life and make sure that but without micromanaging. And, it's just that balance, man. Now we're talking about that on the last, podcast. It's a fine
What balance.
My God, you can sleep when we're dead, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
I work hard for my family. That's what I bring to the table. And all my jobs that I do, I always put my 100% on them.
Mhm.
And if something does go wrong or the client's not satisfied, I always trying to find a way to satisfy them, no matter
Yeah.
what.
If
Yeah.
I have to
Then
go
that's
back, I
because-
go back.
That's priority
Exactly.
one.
If the client's not satisfied with the artwork that I did, or even myself, because I've
You
seen
need to
some of
like
my
it.
work that I like. No, I'm not happy with it. Let's redo it. Like the one we just did. I wasn't, like.
I
but-
wasn't in love with it. And actually, to your point with that, we were talking last night.
We all want to do our best and stuff like that, but sometimes our vision is not focused
Mhm.
properly. So
Well, and especially when you have other voices, right, in your ear,
Mhm.
like, hey, you should do this, you should do this. I have found during those situations, it's like, I appreciate it, but I have my own vision here and I have to stick with it. So to that point, I had reached out to that client and I said, hey, this particular copper is not exactly how it looked to us, with this mix. And to be honest with you, yeah, it's going to cost a few $1,000s in materials. It's going to cost a couple of days, but Danny's leaving, but I'm happy to come and, report if that's what you like. And, what I see out there is a lot of people will avoid that. They'll be like, well, that's how it's supposed to be, or that's what we talked about, 'cause
everybody want to find a shortcut.
they wanna
or-
collect a check
or
and
their
get out.
own solution.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's just not how I don't think that's how any of us roll.
Hell
we
no.
would rather, put our own money in to make it right, to have the correct reputation. So, and actually she came back and she said, no, actually I love it. She's like, I love it. She said, I walked around for a little bit, and at first I said, she said, I wasn't so sure. You're right. It's very orange. She's like, but I really love it. I
I'm
think
willing
it's
to
beautiful.
bet, like the right right light. The right lighting is
Well,
gonna
and
make
that's
a
what I
huge
told her.
difference.
That's what I told her. I said, wake
Yeah.
up in the morning, allow the daylight to be there, spend
Yeah.
some time with it, and if you decide otherwise, you call me and let me know, because you have to live with this thing forever.
Oh, then you call me and I'll come back.
Yeah,
I have
that way.
no problem.
So, and I will say this too. One thing that she pointed out, she said it's just like everything else is so perfect. She was like, you guys took an otherwise 25-year-old urine stained floor and just did. She could see the prep work even from her perspective, which is just she has nothing to do with any of this. So I think
That's
that
the flex base.
flex
Everybody
base
needs
system.
flex base system. Hit us up.
Man, I mentioned this on the Facebook Live, but there were a ton of people that were like, what are you guys using? Because you guys know just as well as I do that just like the contractor that went into that home before we did, he said, this can't be done. And, we posted this job up and we told people, look, FlexBase, Bulletproof Resins has a product called FlexBase. You can, grout coat that floor, use fiberglass mesh tape, and work up off of it with your epoxies, and it works great. So again, education. I think we probably changed the lives of 20 contractors just by putting that out there.
I had a lot of messages with just that product and just that little information that we were pushing out.
Yep.
And we got a lot of feedback. Hopefully it just takes off more, and all these installers
you just have
will
to
stop
be
being
willing.
scared of wooden wooden floors.
Just
basically.
do the prep right.
Right, correct. That's what I'm saying. It's all about the prep as well too.
Lots of cleaning, lots of scrutinize that floor before you start dropping that flex base.
Yes.
Like it makes that process a million times
Always inspect
easier.
it, to see if it's good for a flex based system as well too.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to see that system, you can go to YouTube and then type in subfloor metallic under Bulletproof, and we've got a whole front to back video on that we'll try to get out by the time this podcast releases, but it will be on there. If you want to see how to do a metallic over subfloor, it'll be on the YouTube channel. And follow us at Coatings Central. So.
And this is not my first subfloor. Okay, so I've done it a couple of times with the same system, and it works.
It works great.
Yes.
Absolutely. And that system actually is designed to go outside. It's got a bind component as well for aggregate-based systems. You can do solid color systems. It's an amazing product. So, and it's single component. You don't have to figure out how to mix it. If you're working alone, it's pretty easy to work with. Well, interestingly enough, we built this thing. We've launched this thing. We now have to maintain this thing, which is always the most interesting part, right? I have a lot of fun doing these businesses and building them. I don't have a ton of fun maintaining them. So,
you don't get to hand this one off either.
Oh, I know. This is stuck with me forever. This is now my new baby. It's a kid that I've dedicated myself to. But, coolly enough, I really like what we're doing here. I love being here during the week. I begin my days here, and I go to the other businesses and all of the people, and I end my days here. And every day I walk out of here, and I shut the lights off. I've got the little glow of the floors and the glow of the signs. I say, I love this place, man. I'm really happy with what we have here, and it's interesting. I would love people to come and check this place out, but more importantly, because it's still kind of a half-drawn canvas, we have so many different projects that will fill this place out. Mm-hmm. And I look at these white walls sometimes and it drives me nuts because I want to do something to it. But I also like the kind of the allure of, what's it going to look like? What's it going to be? And who are we going to have do that? We've had some cool, opportunities from consumers as well that have brought us into alternate styles of coverings. Venetian plaster obviously was very popular, and then wallpaper and, everybody kind of got away from that whole thing. And what I see is it's all coming back, and people really are interested. I was speaking.
Was Venetian plaster like a thing recently?
No.
20 years maybe?
Like 2,000 years ago. Like
2,000 years ago, yeah. In Italy, in Europe.
It was a thing.
Yeah, it was a thing for sure.
But when it comes to interior design, is it genuinely new to modern?
Not in Europe.
Yeah. So in what I've seen,
finally caught on.
Well, so there was a blip in the late '90s, early 2000s, where the southwestern states, Hawaii, Florida, those markets really popped off hard with Venetian plaster, alternate stuccos, faux finishes, and then really the wallpaper market, which before was very restricted. There was a lot of innovation in that, where people were making these Terran slap wallpapers, and then stencils got popular, and then it was just everything was supposed to be agreeable gray, and then it stuck there for 15 years, where everything was just gray and grayish and minimalistic, clean, white trim.
Did you just say grayish?
Grayish.
I have a new hate. I hate grayish.
That's right. And it was white trim, and now people are going back to those rich wood tones and the Venetian plaster, and it's beautiful.
Visual textures.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Absolutely.
A lot of restaurants now in Vegas and these big cities like Miami, Vegas, they have all this texture walls.
Yes.
Well, it's like everything else. Everything advances.
Yes.
Different formulation. Just like epoxy. Epoxy, people, think of epoxy sometimes, and they just think of flake floors.
Yeah.
Most of the time, and then they don't, until they see a metallic floor.
Well, that conversation with everybody. What do you do for a living? And you say, well, I do some epoxies. And they say, oh, like garage, like a paint shop?
Garage. Oh, you do garage, you do flake floors.
I just told them I do decorative finishes.
Yeah.
I don't even say epoxy. I'm just like, I do decorative
finishes.
finishes.
You say it in a fancy
Did they ask you what is this?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They ask you what is this?
What is
it?
Oh,
it's a resin-based system. Sometimes they use resin-borne concrete.
It's epoxy.
Like I try to make it as fancy as possible.
I've kind of got tired of trying to explain what we do, so I just tell people we paint. We're painters.
Paint floors.
I usually, when they ask me what you do, I was like, everything.
No.
Yeah.
Tell me what do you need, I can do.
I'm an artist.
On my Facebook,
I make things.
I'm a painter on my Facebook, so that's what it says. Painter.
I paint things.
Yeah, painter.
So real estate,
simple
to epoxy, everything arts, film, to epoxy. What were you doing before this?
Enjoying life.
No, I was working a 9 to 5. I was a manager for a printing company for 20 years.
Damn, why would you do that?
So yes, from
Managing.
transitioning from a printing industry into contractor, handyman, and then epoxy.
What made the shift happen?
COVID.
Oh yeah, all right.
That's why. So literally, our company shut down due to COVID.
And you went, fuck that, I want to work.
No. They started laying people off slowly. Market started going slow in the printing industry and stuff like that. And I was just almost one of the last ones to let go. They gave me, severance pay, and I was able to collect. But they referred me to another location. But I was like, no, I'm gonna take a little vacation.
I see the future here.
Exactly. So I'm gonna take a little vacation. I don't want to jump to another printing industry. I was tired already, kind of.
What were you printing?
We were doing a lot of commercial printing, so it's a lot of magazines. Books.
Oh, okay. So
I was more in the final stuff. I never used to print or anything like that. So I used to run the bindery section. It's called. They printing company. They print it and they bring it towards us, and we put everything together. Since I got laid off, I just was doing nothing.
Somebody told me day before yesterday, they said, well, you're never going to go back to working for anyone else. Even if you were to fail at everything you're doing right now, you're not the kind of person that work for anybody else. And I was like, I think that's right. I honestly don't know that I would ever go back and work for anybody else, but I do miss sometimes punching in and punching out.
Well, having a secure paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I never have this one. I always work by myself, for myself, since I finished my college.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And
that's it's hard to do.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it really is. And the more people you add, you hit these points where you want to scale your business, and you got to figure out how. Well, do I hire a whole bunch of people, or do I hire one at a time? But you have to hire that person that comes in and understands you're a growing business, and finding those people that have an understanding of a growing business, that you're going to pick up the slack with me. You're going to be an entrepreneur essentially with me. It's tough, because if those people have the tenacity and the drive to run a business like that, they're running their own business.
They will.
So that was the hardest part for us, was finding the right people that were willing to grow during the scaling process. I tried the other way where I like hire a whole slew of people, and then that didn't work. You have to grow with your growth and identify who can actually take the stuff that's on your plate that you can't get to over and put in just as much as you are. Luckily for me, I found a couple of people along the way that were willing to do that, and that's why those people are so important in the evolution and the end of this business as well. I have a special place in my heart for, those folks in my business that help me scale it. Also, folks like yourself that, believe in that vision and that mission. And, it takes people to help push the stone up the mountain. And it, unfortunately that stone collects a lot and it snowballs and then it becomes bigger and heavier, So, but I do miss punching in and out too. I miss being able to go home, not even about the paycheck, be able to go home, put my phone down and be
with your family.
Just be, and I think that it certainly is a labile state of mind where, there are days I go home and I say, screw it all. Like, I'm getting rid of all of it. I'm cashing out. I'm enjoying life. And then the very next morning I wake up, I'm like, what was I thinking yesterday? Like,
yeah, I've received some of those texts.
Forget it, Danny. I'm out. But it typically has to do with just managing people. That's all, Who do you see as somebody that you align with in the industry, maybe from far away? Do you have people that you kind of look up to out there that you're...
Madden.
And who is your second?
My man.
Ileana.
Thank you.
This three right here, like, this is like a love affair. This is like absolutely a love triangle.
If only you guys knew what you said about each other when the others weren't around.
Exactly. Nothing but,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, Madden protects Ileana like a mom, like a sister. He's like, somebody gets on there, he's like, get out of here. I'll kill you.
Thank you.
Like, literally, from the first time we started talking about bringing people into the artistry team, first person, I was like, Ileana, hands down.
I didn't think she'd have any interest. She'd be like, who are these people, man? Who are these?
You had two of her favorites, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm coming for them.
So what are we going to do to build our YouTube channel? That's the biggest thing, right?
What I think, the YouTube channels, you need to do like video, the stuff you're doing. People likes to watch the process.
Yes.
Of what you're doing.
Absolutely. So. And I really want to start, it's such a hard thing to say. I'm going to say it, but I want to start promoting the DIY.
Well, no.
Promoting.
No.
I like DIY.
Which DIY? Okay, which I get it. DIY is fun because
this is the bridge.
Look at the controversy. Everybody's like, ah! So I looked at everything that we had and I thought, like, what can we actually get out to Susie Homemaker, and the ballistic system with the advanced and the ballistic system with the pro. Everybody wants polish, but they don't want to pay, $15, $20 for polish. We've developed a system where you can put it down with a pump sprayer and a mop, so how cool is that? Point of this team is to help the contractors that are out there to refine and build their scopes, to make them better, to teach them, different types of trades and bring them all together. But I also would like to kind of cater to the general Susie homemakers, the most of the people, let's be real, that are going to tune into a podcast like this. They want to learn about the industry. They want to learn about what we're doing. We may lose them after a couple of minutes, but I think that, it's important to kind of talk to everybody. And we've never even paid attention to YouTube. We built this company and heavy into Facebook and kind of transition to Instagram. And I look at YouTube, I'm like, man, this is a whole platform that otherwise is a way to, get out there and speak to people. The one thing that this place has given me is a whole bunch of people that I know were meant to be in my life. Every interaction that I look back, these little bookmarks that I look back on that were important to my life all had to do with people that came in and showed me an importance that I didn't realize before, showed me a life lesson, everything from, Justin and I were talking about it. I tried 3 3 graphic design camera guys along the way that, charged me an obscene amount of money and came in and shot a bunch of footage, and then eventually it went nowhere, or maybe I never got it, or whatever, and I was giving up on that. And then finally, he comes into my life. He was like super flexible. He valued my time, I valued his time, but I'm a really busy guy. And he actually said to me, he was like, yeah, if I was a few years younger, I would have been like, after a few times of you not showing up or doing this or being late, he said, I would have said, fuck this guy. He's like, but I started to realize who you were, and what I've realized from him is like, he's a dad of all girls, and there's been things of conversations that we've had discussions, and we were talking about it last night, and I actually went home and thought about him and, his experiences and, all of these things. And I realized that every single person around me, whether they work for me or with me or whatever, is meant to be in my life. And that's what this industry has given me. It's given me so much opportunity,
and different people.
Yeah, people focus on the wealth and what comes from it. But really, it's just presented so much opportunity for growth, as an individual, refining my character, trying to self-reflect. It's this weird thing that we do in this life that we forget that we are here in this place, in these weird bodies, doing this weird thing, and it's bizarre when you really think about it, what we're doing here, right? But it's all about this experience, and I truly value this place more for the experience. Goals for 2025 for us are growing our YouTube channel and Coatings College, and that's the focus, is making sure that all of the elements that we've brought to the industry before can support that.
You want to start being a YouTube personality with me?
Who, me?
Yeah.
This is Dan's Hands from New
Hands.
Jersey.
This is Dan's Hands.
He said, what the fuck kind of accent is that?
Who, him?
No, when I made that video.
Oh, yeah, you made that video. This is Dan's Hands. I'm like, what
It sounded just like that, didn't it?
Yeah, him mocking it. Yeah.
I'm mocking you. That's why. This is Dan's Hands. This is from New Jersey. No.
New Jersey.
Do you think he has an accent? Listen to me.
Check out my epoxy class. You can come to New Jersey. See, it sounds just fucking like it. I'm telling you. I nailed it.
You nailed it. Yeah.
I did Madden's. He said, I don't think so. I showed it to Kendall the other day, my daughter. I was like, hey, look at this. She's like, nailed it. I said, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
She said, you're just a little high on the tone. She said, bring the tone down a little bit. You'll be right in.
Yeah. You were definitely frantic enough. You got that.
That's funny. Well, cool. I think very interesting content. I appreciate you guys kicking around and hanging out today. Anything left to say before we go, guys? Good. So
great meeting you guys.
Raul.
Bravo is the restaurant.
Dan's Hands.
Yeah, your hands.
Dan's
Yeah, Hands Dance.
Mr. Duke.
Mr. Dookie.
from New Jersey. So catch Ileana in the UK. What's the date? Do you know yet?
September, I believe.
Oh, it's a little while then.
Yeah.
Okay, so with these guys in the UK in September, Madden will be gone for a couple of weeks and then back. So I'm sure probably online here with Coding Central here shortly.
Yeah.
Give him hold on first. Give Ileana a follow at Savita Art, right? Madden at Madden
No.
Artistry. Sorry, I got you. Madden Artistry. And then Danny Carrero out of Cranford, New Jersey.
Whoa, you just dropped the full legal docs, bro.
Mr. Dan's Hands.
There we go.
Dan's Hands.
Dan's Hands. So check them out. And then, of course, check us out at coatingcentral.com, coatingscollege.com, of course, bulletproofresins.com, squeezeyourtrigger.com, and supply the letter in design.com.
Epoxy the world.
That's right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
epoxy the world.